after a lot of back and forth, finally under one roof and in one location at one venue, we're looking at the teams negotiating and having a dialogue. But still, there have been, when it comes to the issues and facing the wall as far as United States and also the team of Iran, the delegation who were in Switzerland, reviving a diplomatic process that appears to be still uncertain. Now, all eyes are on the Swiss mountain resort, where American and Iranian delegations are engaged in their first face-to-face engagement since the peace deal was signed and sealed. But the road to a lasting breakthrough, however, remains far from straightforward. Even as negotiators are meeting behind closed doors, the tensions continue to simmer and major differences still remain unresolved. Now, the Switzerland dialogue appears to have hit major hurdles. First up, let's get you through the updates that are coming in, where the US-Iran talks that have wrapped up earlier than it was expected, with the Iranian delegation leaving the venue before scheduled conclusion of the discussions. Iranian sources have now linked this move to a recent warning issued by President Trump, suggesting that Tehran was unhappy with the tone of Washington's messaging, even as the negotiations were underway. So in a breaking update, what we are learning is that the Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi is saying that tireless mediation efforts by Pakistan and Qatar seems to have delivered major progress towards ending the war in Lebanon. In a statement, the first round of US-Iran talks in Switzerland, Araghchi has now pointed to the steps including sanctions release, the release of some frozen Iranian assets, and also a reconstruction plan for Iran. He says that the first real test of the emerging agreement will be newly established Lebanon deconfliction self, and also while describing the opening round of the talks as a frosty start. Now, this is coming in from the Iranian foreign minister, who in a way seems to be suggesting that, yes, the talks that may be moving in a way which seems to be a little forward-looking, but as far as the two sides being under same venue and under one roof, however, it was nearly an awkward start that was witnessed. So let's put out exactly what Araghchi has to say, because he is now thanking Pakistan and Qatar for the role that they seems to have been playing as far as the mediation efforts are concerned. So here is what Araghchi has been saying, that tireless Pakistani and Qatari mediation, which is now delivered. Let's take a look as far as this post is concerned, where he says that tireless Pakistani and Qatari mediation has delivered major progress to end the Lebanon war. Oil and petrochem exports are waived, blockade lifted, some frozen assets released, and major reconstruction and development plan that has been launched for Iran. The first real test is the Lebanon deconfliction cell, and that seems to be a positive start that the Iranian side has been saying, that major progress that has been made to end the Lebanon war. Let's connect with Srinjoy and Mayank, who is joining us here on the broadcast. Good morning to both of you. Srinjoy, frosty start, very awkward, no handshakes, no acknowledgement rather. But when we speak of these closed-door talks that has been taking place, Iran has been suggesting that major progress has been made despite threats coming in from President Trump.
The fact that they were in the same room at the same time and they could actually speak with each other is actually a big step forward. First of all, they are speaking to each other, and that's not happened in a long, long time. Then, of course, there's been forward movement. There's been forward movement in the sense that you have agreements, if not agreements, at least you're working towards agreements on all these issues. The Strait of Hormuz, the lifting of the blockade of the Iranian ports, the sanctions relief, the money for reconstruction. Lebanon continues to be a sticky issue because the fighting between the Hezbollah and the Israelis actually have continued even while people have been in touch with each other. So there have been casualties. We last heard about 16 people had been killed in the fighting. Now that's a lot of people. And these attacks by the Hezbollah on northern Israel, because the Hezbollah is the world's largest private army. At least it was, till it was significantly degraded. but they still have missiles, they still have drones, they can still hit Israel. The Israelis similarly have been hitting the Hezbollah positions in southern Lebanon.
Because that has been the Israeli side saying that there will be no change, because saying that yes, US and Israel are allies, but when it comes to the national interests of Israel, it is about their existence after all. And as far as their objectives are concerned, they still maintain that under no circumstances they will allow Iran to be armed with nuclear weapons. There's another joint statement that has now been released. Let's put out exactly what has happened in round one of the Swiss dialogue. Now, between the United States and Iran, which seems to have concluded, with negotiations now moving at a technical track. Mediators, which have now issued this joint statement announcing a quadrilateral framework, including high-level panel to supervise mediation efforts and a joint committee to provide political oversight. Now, this statement says that a roadmap has been cleared for a final agreement within 60 days. While there is a direct hotline that seems to be focused on the Strait of Hormuz, which is now operational to prevent security incidents to ensure that there is safe maritime passage through this vital waterway. So that seems to be the first round of talks, and the talks that seems to have been continuing. Mayank, this seems to be a very issue there, because when we are now looking at the current situation, what is there exactly to celebrate? I mean, yes, both leaders, are at the same place. They could have, had a direct conversation. However, there is a role that has been played by the Pakistani and Qatar side. Qatar also seems to be a little frosty towards the United States. But the Strait of Hormuz still remains closed.
Good morning, Amita, and good morning to the viewers. It will be tricky 60 days ahead. So mid-August or the second half of the August will be making things clear, or may not be making things clear, because the way the things have started here in Switzerland also, Iran was, Iran had in one way or the other was, had walked out for some time actually, saying that Lebanon, at least Lebanon has been one of the points of the 14-point MOU. Which said that cessation of all kind of operations on Lebanon was supposed to be there, implemented. So MOU, which was supposed to become the pedestal, now technical groups have been formed, which will include on nuclear issues, on sanctions, on Lebanon also. We'll have to see. So, and hotline has been created. So these 60 days will, everyone will be keeping their eyes glued on that. But we'll have to find out how conditions will be met, because till some time, nuclear issue was the most important issue, but then Lebanon has become the most sticky point in this case. And we don't find any let-up from the Israel side. They had been continuing with all kind of operations, pounding the places of congregations, infrastructure or structures which are being used to launch rockets and drones on northern portions of the Israel. So in this case, it's going to be tricky, but then positive words have come out from the Iranian delegation, saying that these committees have been formed. So we'll, things will be moving forward.
That the Iranian delegation walked out because they were unhappy with the recent threat that President Trump had issued, and this is coming in on Lebanon. So to say, as far as now, the resistance powers is something which it seems that Iran is going to any extent and all extent to actually safeguard its interest and of its proxies in the Middle East. Now, speaking on this very issue, it is Prime Minister of Israel, which is Benjamin Netanyahu, and he now seems to be digging on the Lebanon buffer zone, because he says under no circumstances the safety zones or the buffer zones that has been created by the IDF, they are now going to be removed. So he says that buffer zones are here to stay and they needed to protect the Israelis. Now here is Prime Minister of Israel saying that the forces will remain and they will remain put as far as in southern Lebanon is concerned, which is said to be a stronghold of Hezbollah.
השגנו הישגים כבירים ולא נוותר עליהם. נשאר ברצועת הביטחון בדרום לבנון ככל שידרש, כדי להגן על תושבי הצפון היקרים לנו ועל אזרחי המדינה כולה. כראש ממשלת ישראל אני עומד על כך בתוקף, ושום דבר לא ישנה זאת. וביחס לאיראן, יהיו אשר יהיו ההתפתחויות המדיניות, לא אתן לאיראן להתחמש בנשק גרעיני. כל עוד אני ראש ממשלת ישראל, זה לא יקרה.
Well, Srinjoy, for Israel, it's a completely different objective altogether. In the first place, they never wanted the military operations to end. But now that they have ended on part of the United States, there has been also a lot of pressure building that is being done by President of the United States on Israel. But Israel continues to remain defiant.
Israel believes that their main threat now is the Hezbollah. And the Hezbollah, as I said, is perhaps the most powerful private army in the world. They have rockets, they have drones, they have missiles, they can target northern Israel, and they have. So as a result, the Israelis, the Israeli army, the IDF, have been hitting targets in southern Lebanon. And when the Hezbollah has moved north, the Israelis have hit Beirut. Now that has led to civilian casualties. That has led to extreme unhappiness. Even President Trump is unhappy about it. But the Israelis, which has to be said, are making it clear that as far as they are concerned, there is still no solution in that fight with the Hezbollah. And till that happens, they will continue to defend their country.
Absolutely, because this is something that, the buffer zones that Israel seems to have created in other areas as well. When we speak of what has happened with the Hamas in Gaza, now as far as this buffer zone that has been created in southern part of Lebanon, despite when it comes to the talks and the negotiations that has been taking place, Israel has continued to hit the Hezbollah command centers in Beirut and in southern Lebanon as well. Please to stay on with us, because this seems to be the next, threat that is now coming from President Trump, and that is coming in over the Strait of Hormuz. Again, the use of expletives that has come in from the President of the United States. He's now warned Iran against disrupting the shipping route, the strategic waterway, and signaling that Washington is prepared to act to keep the route open. However, the Iranian President Pezeshkian has now reiterated that uranium enrichment is a non-negotiable sovereign right, insisting that Tehran will not bow to pressure or threats on its nuclear program. Again, Mayank, the same questions. What are they celebrating exactly? Strait of Hormuz remains shut. Iran says that they have the right to enriched uranium. And this is now coming across from President of the United States, because the threats surrounding the Strait of Hormuz, saying that if, they go back on taking tolls or generating revenue, well, he says that United States is acting like a guardian angel for the Strait of Hormuz.
Only point we can surmise from the way the things are moving is that the both sides are together now. At least they'll be able to understand each other's sides and points, actually. So when you physically meet, actually lots of other things, factors are also, they come up and they help in sort of negotiations. But as you have rightly said, things have actually practically not moved anywhere, which is Strait of Hormuz remains closed for some time, actually. And Lebanon operations, they continue even when Iran has been wanting that they would give up or they'll be able to let go. Ceasefire also in that case. So things remain nebulous in that case, but then technical committees have been formed. That also we can say. So it has been happening right from the beginning, which I can precisely say, which is from 8th of April. That sub-conditions have been talked about. And we at times now have been bringing out that initially the sub-conditions will have to be met, only then the larger issues, which is nuclear issue, which is sanctions, which is Strait of Hormuz, will get resolved. But here what we see is actually only positive point is that both sides have met. But then otherwise the larger situation remains nebulous. But having said that, hope remains there, because lots of issues are being discussed. Hotline is being has started between the both sides, and Strait of Hormuz, mind it, has definitely been used as a strategic tool by Iranians, and it is something on which we can say that it has brought pressure on US. So let us see, wait and watch how things will shape up, because in between Strait of Hormuz was open for some time and Iran has again clamped down the movement. Let us wait and watch how US naval forces will be now.
Is something which Iran has promptly done when it comes to shutting or the closing of the Strait of Hormuz. threats once again have been issued on part of President Trump, but there you can see the pictures very awkward. Vice President J.D. Vance seems to be praising the role of Pakistan, but as far as the Iranian side are concerned, in no way that, again, being in the same room, but there were no pleasantries that was exchanged between the two sides. Now, J.D. Vance, who has joined the Switzerland negotiations, and during the first round of talks, he said that President Donald Trump wants to open a new chapter in ties. He said that meaningful progress that has been made in the recent hours, while acknowledging that the disputes cannot be resolved in one day. He's added that the United States delegation remains encouraged and optimistic about the talks.
What today really represents is the beginning of a technical negotiation that's not going to solve every disagreement, but is going to allow us to sit together as teams for the first time really in history to figure out what matters most to the respective parties, to settle those issues, to solve those issues, and get to a better tomorrow. The reason why the political leadership of the respective countries is here is because we wanted to, first of all, set up the structure for these technical negotiations, and second of all, make sure that our teams have our full support and know they can always call on us to break through any barriers. What the President has asked us to do is turn over a new leaf, to transform our relationship with the people of Iran and to extend an outstretched hand that says to the people of Iran that if your leadership is willing to give up being a driver of regional instability, if they are willing to give up nuclear weapons ambitions for the long term, then the United States is willing to fundamentally transform our relationship with that country. That is certainly our goal. We've already made great progress over just the last few hours, and I expect that we'll make additional progress in the hours to come. It is the President's leadership and the President's willingness to see a Middle East that is much different 10 years from now than it was 10 years ago. And what we're trying to accomplish here is something very simple. Through diplomacy, through working together to transform the Middle East, where Iran and the Gulf have been at war with each other, or at least have had very unfriendly relations, where Iran has been a driver of regional instability. Now we see a future where everybody can work together to promote peace and prosperity for everyone.
Peace and prosperity, as they say, that is coming on part of the negotiations from the Pakistani side. I mean, as far as Vice President J.D. Vance is concerned, he seems to be hyphenating as far as his American-born having Indian roots wife, and also with the Pakistani General Asim Munir. In the meantime, we head into a very short break. You're watching The Morning News Hour.